Good afternoon, everyone. Our meeting will begin shortly. Gloria, I know you just joined. If you could, and I believe you're on the Spanish channel, but I just want to confirm that you're on the Spanish channel and will provide the instructions at the beginning of the meeting in Spanish on that channel. I can hear you. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Member Gomez and
Good
Member Birkbeck Garcia. Let's see who else is here. I don't want to leave out anyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I think I saw Member Medina. Good afternoon. Member Shu, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, Chair Vargas.
Are you able to see me? Hi, and are you able to see me?
No, we see your dashboard
Okay.
of your car. Oh, there you
There
are.
you go. I'm gonna be okay. I am going to not have my video on because I am driving back from LA. I'm not physically driving, but I am in the passenger seat, and that I want to make sure that I Anyway, I can do the meeting, but I'm just not going to be, you can't see me. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Doing well, thank you.
All right. If you can just let me know when we have quorum, please.
We have quorum. I want to make sure. Is
All
everyone
right.
ever able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So since we have quorum, I'm now going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 2:02. Before we get started, I wanted to share that we will be hosting simultaneous interpretation of this meeting into Spanish. I want to introduce our translator with Spanish language instructions. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our translator.
Thank you. Vicky, are you available to provide the instructions in Spanish? Okay, thank you. You can go ahead and do that at this time. And we would need that done on the English channel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you, thank you very much. Next, I want to ask our clerk, Ms. Maurice, to confirm that we have a quorum and please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Vargas. We do have a quorum. I would like to remind all board members and meeting participants to please select your preferred language using the interpretation button at the bottom of the Zoom screen. I'd also like to note for the record that Member Martinez has notified us that she will be absent from today's proceedings. All remaining board members are participating via teleconference. As such, all votes will be taken by roll call vote. With that, Member Birkbeck Garcia,
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush,
Oh, Bush here.
Member Elo Rivera,
Elo Rivera present.
Member Gomez,
Gomez here.
Member Lawson Reamer,
Here.
Member Medina,
Medina, aye.
Member Shu,
Here. Here.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Sanchez present.
and Chair Vargas.
Vargas here.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is to make sure that I ask everyone, I want to make sure that I remind everybody to make sure that their camera is on. Again, I apologize that I don't have my camera on as I am coming back from my meeting. So, but if you would like to mention that you make comments, please raise your hands and I will recognize you. I will also ask, I'm going to ask the clerk to help me in this process and recognize folks. I'm going to also ask that you say your name after each vote so that we can make sure that we are annotating accordingly. The next item is item B, public communications, non-agenda public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to the board on any subject matter within the board jurisdiction, but not an item in today's agenda. Maurice, are there any members of the public that wish to address the board on this item today?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided on the screen. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of the Zoom screen or by pressing *9 now. Seeing no hands raised, there's no public communication on this item today.
Thank you. Item C, approval of the statement of proceeding minutes for the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Governing Board, May 12th, 2022 meeting. We will now move to the approval. Marvis, are there any members of the public that wish to address the board on this item today?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. If there are any members of the public that wish to address the board under this item today, please press *9 now to raise your hand, or you may use the raise hand feature at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Seeing no hands raised, there is no public testimony on this item.
All right, is there a motion for approval of the May 12th, 22 statement of proceedings?
I'll make the motion.
Second, Gomez.
Thank you. I think it was Mr. Medina and a second by Ms. Gomez.
Correct. Thank you.
You're welcome. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck Garcia,
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush,
Bush, yes.
Member Elo Rivera,
Elo Rivera, yes.
Member Gomez,
Gomez, yes.
Member Lawson Reamer,
Yes.
Member Medina,
Medina, aye.
Member Shu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Sanchez, I.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
With Member Martinez absent, that motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you very much. The next item is the adoption. Item number D1, adoption of resolution relating to the continued holding of teleconference meetings. And then item number D2, adoption of bylaws for the Air Pollution Control District Governing Board. The first item, Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony instructions for those that wish to comment on these items?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask any members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. This would also be your time if you would like to pull an item from the consent calendar to discussion. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. Seeing no hands raised, there are no members of the public that wish to pull in any agenda items, any consent items to the agenda.
All right. Is there any members of the board that would like to pull any of the items on the consent agenda? Or if you have any questions or comments, please let me know now. No, yeah, see none. Is there a motion to approve the June 9th, 2022 consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar, Sanchez.
Shu, second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck Garcia,
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush,
Bush, yes.
Member Elo Rivera,
Elo Rivera, yes.
Member Gomez,
Gomez, yes.
Member Lawson Reamer,
Yes.
Member Martinez, Member Medina,
Medina, aye.
Member Shu,
Shu, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Sanchez, I.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion adopts the following resolution entitled Resolution Authorizing Continuance of Teleconferenced Public Meetings pursuant to Government Code Section 54953, subsection E. With Member Martinez absent, that motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is E1, budget hearing approval fiscal year 2023, the recommended budget adoption. Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony instructions for those that wish to comment?
Excuse me, this is legal counsel. Just a clarification, Marvis, when you said that resolution D1 of the consent was passed, was there also an action taken on D2 of the consent that needs to be put in the record?
Yes.
And we should do that. You only indicated that D1 was passed as a result of the vote on the consent. We also need to say that D2 was passed as well.
The resolution that was adopted, I did read into the title or read into the record the title of the resolution. The bylaws were also adopted for the Air Pollution Control District Governing Board.
Okay, I didn't hear that on the record.
I will state it for the record that the adoption of bylaws for the Air Pollution Control District Governing Board were also included in that action.
Very good. Thank you.
We're good?
We're
Okay.
good.
Thank you. All right, the next item number item E1, budget hearing, pollution control officers fiscal year 2022-2023, recommended budget adoption. Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony instructions for those that wish to comment?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you and the instructions provided on the screen. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. Your testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
Thank you very much.
If you would like, Chair Vargas, we can now move into the staff presentation for this item.
Yes, before we begin with the remarks from the Air Pollution Control Officer, we're gonna begin with the remarks from the Air Pollution Control Officer, Paula Forbes, followed by a staff presentation. And so I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Paula. But I did want to just say thank you to Paula and to the team for doing such an exceptional job with the process and for all the work. So go ahead, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Paula. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Chair Vargas, and thank you, board members. I really appreciate those kind words. And this is the second of 2 hearings on the proposed budget for fiscal year 22-23. And as you will hear from staff's presentation, with one minor exception, this is the same budget that we proposed to you at our evening hearing in May that we're bringing to you for adoption today. We have not received any additional comments from the public since that hearing, but we have taken to heart the board's previous comments related to transparency and public engagement on the budget. And we're going to be working in the coming months over a new budget platform called OpenGov, which should make our budget development more accessible and transparent to all of our stakeholders going forward. And just quickly, before we launch into a short staff presentation, I wanted to thank our Chief of Business Support Services, John Jayasinga, and Amir Zaki, Spencer Hartice on his team, as well as our Deputy Director, Mike Watt. They have really worked and put in a lot of hours on development of the proposed budget with all of our staff. And so I want to give them my thanks for this as well. So with that, I will turn it over to John.
Thank you, Paula. Good afternoon, Chair Vargas and board members. My name is John Jayasinga, Chief of Business Support Services for the district. Today's hearing is the second public hearing for budget adoption. The first hearing, held on May 12th, was exclusively for the purpose of reviewing the proposed budget and providing the public with the opportunity to comment. Next slide, please. In this presentation, I will provide an overview of the budget highlights, a brief review of the district staffing included in the budget, the request for a new committed account for financial systems replacement, and the district operating reserve minimum fund balance. And finally, the requested actions for today. Next slide, please. The proposed budget document, which can be found on the district's website, details the spending plan for the district under the control of the governing board. The recommended budget is balanced and reflects a proposed total of $99.9 million in revenues and expenditures for fiscal year 22-23. Please note that none of the information for the proposed revenues and expenditures that was presented during the first hearing has changed. Some of the fiscal year 22-23 budget highlights and key projects that are included in this budget are the following: $45.9 million in pass-through funding for projects to reduce air pollution from motor vehicles and mobile equipment, which includes over $18 million for projects that reduce emissions in identified disadvantaged communities. $2.3 million to support environmental justice programs, including continued implementation of the Portside Community Emission Reduction Plan and completion of the Border Community Emission Reduction and Monitoring Plans. There's approximately $293,000 to support public participation. This includes costs for 1 full-time public information officer and budget for services and supplies. Additionally, there are funds budgeted throughout the district programs to support public participation, including translation and interpretation services and public meeting facilitation services as well. $1.7 million for IT innovations, including ongoing website enhancements and new systems to improve program efficiency. $200,000 to implement the adopted plan for air quality complaint response with an in-house 24-hour hotline to enhance community services and facilitate after-hours complaint investigations. Next slide, please. To ensure critical services are provided and meet district goals and objectives, there are 175 total staff years or full-time equivalent or FTE included in the fiscal year 22-23 recommended budget. This includes 164 fiscal year 21-22 adopted positions, 3 new positions approved in March, and 8 recommended new positions. The 8 recommended positions, which include air quality specialists, chemists, managers, and support staff requested for fiscal year 22-23 are designed to fill existing gaps in key district programs resulting from the separation from the county and new program requirements. Please note, one of the 8 new recommended positions requested in the budget is an associate air resources specialist to support implementation of the air toxics inventory and Rule 1210 air toxic risk reduction efforts. Upon further evaluation, district staff has determined that an air quality specialist is more appropriate classification for this program. Therefore, the new associate air resources specialist position included in the recommended budget is proposed to be revised to an air quality specialist in the final adopted budget. The fiscal impact for this revision is negligible and will be funded with anticipated salary savings. Next slide, please. Today's actions include a recommendation to create a new committed fund for financial systems reserve account to be funded initially with $2.5 million as recommended in the budget to begin to scope, procure, and implement a new financial system replacement as necessary. As funds are available in future budgets, the intent is to keep adding to this account on an annual basis, as the anticipated costs are expected to exceed the initial contributions significantly. Additionally, today's actions include a recommendation to direct the Air Pollution Control Officer to maintain a minimum balance of 2 months of district operating expenditures in the committed fund for operating reserve account as part of the annual budget development process, providing a financial safety net to help to ensure core programs and services are maintained in cases of unforeseen economic revenue shortfalls. Next slide, please. The requested actions for today are to open and activate a committed fund for financial systems account, direct the Air Pollution Control Officer to maintain a minimum balance of 2 months of district operating expenditures in the committed fund for operating reserve account, and adopt a resolution approving the Air Pollution Control Officer's recommended budget for fiscal year 22-23. Next slide, please. This concludes our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Very much appreciated. I want to just one more time say I want to thank the team at APCD for all of their work. I know this is the first time we also had an evening meeting to make sure that we're budget hearing and really appreciate that process. So I wanted to see if there's any speakers. Do you have any public comment?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. We have received no request to speak on this item. However, if there are any members of the public that are on the teleconference line now that would like to address the board on this item, please press *9 now to raise your hand or use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Seeing no hands raised, there is no public testimony on this item.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to go ahead and open the floor for questions and comments from any of my colleagues.
Member Gomez has her hand raised.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Member Gomez?
I don't have any particular questions. I just want to go ahead and move the item and also just add my gratitude to staff for their work and actually changing the presentations reflected of some of the comments. I appreciate that a lot. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Gomez. So we have a motion by Member Gomez. Is there a second?
Second, Member Bush.
Thank you. We have a motion by Member Gomez and a second by Member Bush. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Burke Garcia,
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush,
Bush, yes.
Member Elo Rivera,
Elo Rivera, yes.
Member Gomez,
Gomez, yes.
Member Lawson Reamer,
Yes.
Member Medina,
Medina, aye.
Member Shu,
Shu, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez, Vice Chair Sanchez, Chair Vargas,
Vargas, aye.
with Member Martinez and Sanchez being absent, that motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you very much.
My
Thank you, everyone.
apologies.
Oh.
My apologies. It's I from Sanchez. I went out, my video went out for like, I don't know, 3 seconds. Had to go back on.
No problem. I will note for the record, and I vote from Vice Chair Sanchez
Great.
for item E1.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is item E2, adoption of proposed new rule for federally mandated ozone non-attainment fees. Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony instructions for those that wish to comment?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask those members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided on the screen. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. Your testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation. Chair Vargas, would you like to move forward with the staff presentation?
Yes, ma'am. I was just waiting to see if you said there are no public comments. Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, we have them queued and their testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
Go ahead with the staff presentation.
You may begin with the staff presentation.
Thank you. I'm not seeing the slides. Are they?
While the presentation's pulled up, I'd like to introduce Angela Ortega from our staff, who heads up our Rural Development Division.
Great. Thank you, Paula. Good afternoon, Chair Vargas and members of the board. I am Angela Ortega, Rural Development Supervisor for the district. Today, I am presenting proposed new Rule 45, federally mandated ozone non-attainment fees. Next slide, please. Ozone pollution is formed when air pollutants, such as nitrogen oxides and volatile organic compounds, emitted by different types of sources, such as vehicles, off-road equipment, and factories, chemically react under the influence of sunlight and heat. Ozone is harmful to breathe and is therefore regulated as an air pollutant. Exposure to ozone irritates and inflames the air passageways, making it harder to breathe. Next slide, please. Because of the harmful health effects from ozone exposure, the Environmental Protection Agency currently has two active ozone standards: the 0.075 parts per million, which was established in 2008, and the 0.070 established in 2015. Two previous standards, the 0.12 1-hour standard established in 1979 and the 0.08 8-hour standard established in 1997, have both since been revoked by the EPA. In July of 2021, the San Diego Air Basin was reclassified by the EPA as a severe ozone non-attainment area for both the 2008 and the 2015 standards. Current computer air modeling predicts that the region, with a current ozone concentration of 0.078, will be at or below the 2008 standard level by the EPA attainment deadline of July 2027. Because of last year's reclassification to severe, the region became subject to Section 185 of the Federal Clean Air Act. Next slide, please. Section 185 was adopted in 1990 and requires states or regions with severe or extreme ozone non-attainment areas to adopt a fee collection rule for federal major stationary sources of VOC or NOx. The fee collection rule would only be implemented in the event that a region does not attain the ozone standard by the required attainment date. Section 185 specifies a fee calculation formula that uses a facility's actual emissions, its baseline emissions, as well as an EPA-established fee rate that reflects the current consumer price index. Fee collection would be required every year from each major stationary source, unless a region is designated as attainment by the EPA or a facility reduces emissions by 20% from its baseline. Baseline emissions are the actual emissions emitted by a facility during the year that the EPA made the finding that a region has not attained a particular ozone standard. Next slide, please. The district is proposing new Rule 45 to fulfill the Section 185 requirement for the 2008 ozone standard and to avoid possible sanctions from failing to submit an approvable rule to the EPA by the federal deadline of July 2022. Because the region is classified as severe, this rule would apply to facilities that either emit or have the potential to emit 25 tons or more per year of VOC or NOx. The potential to emit is calculated assuming a facility operates 24 hours a day, 365 days a year at a maximum allowable operational load. Should the region not attain the 2008 standard, the EPA will make that finding, presumably in 2027, which would then become the baseline year that future facility emissions would be compared to. In 2028, facilities must reduce emissions by 20% or be subject to Rule 45 fees. Fees would be calculated, invoiced, and collected in 2029 and annually thereafter. These dates are all presumed and will depend on the EPA making a formal finding of the San Diego Air Basin failing to attain. Proposed Rule 45 was drafted in accordance with the Clean Air Act and current EPA guidance on the approvability of a Section 185 fee collection rule. The district will propose a fee collection rule for the 2015 ozone standard in a future separate rulemaking. Next slide, please. The range of possible future annual fees based on 2021 dollars for various actual emissions is shown in this graph. A facility emitting 20 tons per year of either VOC or NOx that reduced emissions by 20% when compared to its baseline would not be subject to a fee. If this facility could not achieve any emission reductions, they could potentially pay in excess of $43,000. A facility emitting 100 tons per year of either VOC or NOx would pay over $200,000 if no emission reductions were achieved. All future facility emissions would be based on current district-approved facility emissions inventory data. If a facility is a major stationary source for both VOC and NOx, it would be subject to 2 separate fees. Next slide, please. Okay. Impact of the rule adoption. As mentioned earlier, current computer air modeling does indicate that the region will attain the 2008 standard by the EPA deadline. However, such attainment cannot be predicted with absolute certainty. Based on 2019 emissions inventory data, approximately 23 major stationary sources of VOC and/or NOx may be affected by the rule. This number includes those facilities with a potential to emit 25 tons per year or more. The number of sources is subject to change based on future emissions inventories. Any fees collected will potentially be used towards actions to reduce ambient ozone concentrations in the region. For example, towards programs to provide incentives for additional emission reductions from stationary, area-wide, or mobile sources. Expenditures will be addressed in future district planning and budgets when actual fee revenues are collected. Once the region has been redesignated as being in attainment for the 2008 standard, the rule would no longer apply, and accordingly, fees would no longer be collected. Next slide, please. These pie charts show the contribution from each of the various emission categories for VOC and NOx emissions in San Diego County projected for 2022. Stationary sources are estimated to contribute approximately 25% of regional VOC emissions and 6% of regional NOx emissions. The stationary source category is mostly comprised of typical types of equipment and businesses that the district regulates. For example, industrial factories, private and publicly owned waste facilities, and military installations. Despite being a smaller component of the regional emissions profile, major stationary sources are nonetheless subject to Section 185 fees. Next slide, please. Attaining the 2008 standard is a region-wide effort that will require all sources, stationary and mobile, to do their part in reducing VOC and NOx emissions as expeditiously as possible. The EPA, the California Air Resources Board, the San Diego Association of Governments, and other local agencies are currently pursuing many actions to help achieve this. These include CARB actions to reduce emissions from mobile sources, such as passenger vehicles and heavy-duty trucks, which represent the most stringent suite of mobile source regulations in the nation. The district is currently supporting CARB efforts through a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, to enforce certain CARB mobile source regulations locally. In addition, the district administers a number of incentive programs designed to help reduce mobile source emissions in the region. Also, SANDAG has committed to reduce region-wide on-road emissions by 30% by year 2026 and by 40% by year 2032 through ride-sharing programs and reducing vehicle miles traveled. Collectively, these and other efforts contribute to the computer air modeling prediction that the region will attain the 2008 standard by the federal deadline. Next slide, please. As part of our stakeholder engagement process, the district reached out to over 3,500 permit holders, stakeholders, and industry groups through direct mailings, one public workshop held in April 2022, emails sent out to GovDelivery subscribers, and the posting of information on the district website and social media to present this proposal and obtain feedback. In the event the district anticipates that the region will fail to attain the 2008 standard, the district will commence outreach and coordination with potentially affected sources in advance of any EPA finding. Next slide, please. The district received comments requesting that an equivalent alternative Section 185 fee program be considered for inclusion in proposed new Rule 45. An equivalent fee program would collect an equivalent amount of revenue from sources other than from major stationary sources, such as mobile sources. According to EPA guidance, an equivalent fee program for the 2008 8-hour ozone standard is not a SIP approvable element at this time. An equivalent fee program is only allowable for the 1979 1-hour ozone standard that was revoked. As a result of this feedback, the district added language to the rule that would exempt major stationary sources from these fees in the event that the EPA approved an equivalent fee program for the region for the 2008 standard. Next slide, please. In closing, today's recommendations for your consideration are to, 1, find that the proposal is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, and 2, to adopt the resolution adopting new Rule 45 as proposed. This concludes the staff presentation, and we're available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ortega. Thank you for the presentation. And are there any members of the public that wish to address the board on this item? I think you said yes. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Any members of the public that wish to address the board on this item, please press *9 now to raise your hand so that we can acknowledge you. You may also use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Again, if you would like to address the board on this item, please press *9 now. I know we are in receipt of one request to speak. However, I don't see that caller on the line at this time. Seeing no hands raised, there is no public testimony on this item.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate the work on this new rule. This is something that needs to be advanced as part of meeting the national air quality standards with the EPA as well. So I'm going to go ahead and open the floor for questions and comments from my colleagues. I'm going to ask for your help, Madam Clerk, with this process as well.
Absolutely. Member Medina, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, thank you. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much. That was very clear, very easy to follow. I do have a question, clarification. I think in one of your last comments about the language in the proposed rule for an equivalency program. I think you said that stationary storage would be exempted. I was not clear that the language actually says they would be exempted, but that there would be options for equivalency programs. Could you just clarify that for me?
Yes. So the exemption states that should the EPA, should it become available, that maybe the 2008 standard is revoked or EPA publishes some sort of guidance that allows for an alternative, we would have to amend Rule 45 and propose an alternative and go back to the board for approval, submit that to EPA, and if they approved it, then the major sources potentially could be exempt, and the fees would be obtained from mobile sources, as an example.
Okay, so the decision to accept would be based on whatever district proposes and the board reviews.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Chair Vargas, if I might, the public caller is now on the line. Would you like to take the public testimony from the caller at this time? Chair Vargas, I believe you're muted.
Yes.
Okay. At this time, I would call forward a caller with the last 4 digits of 4332. 4332. You may unmute yourself at this time and begin your comments. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Please state your name before speaking, and please self-regulate your time. You may begin at any time.
Hello, this is Steve Jepson. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. Hi, this is Steve Jepson, Executive Director for the Southern California Alliance of Publicly Owned Treatment Works, or SCAP. We thank you, Chair Vargas, and the San Diego Air Pollution Control District Board for allowing the opportunity to comment today. SCAP represents over 80 public agencies, including public wastewater agencies in San Diego, and commenting to say we support this rule with the minor changes that were made regarding potential for exemptions if EPA has an approved equivalency program. Also want to thank the opportunity to be engaged and communicate with staff as the rule was being developed. It was very positive and professional. Would like to point out that stationary sources only represent 6% of the NOx contributions in the San Diego basin and 25% of the VOC contributions. And this is the reason why other air districts have attempted to or have adopted equivalency programs so that the fees collected would be from the sources that are having the greater effect on NOx and VOC in the basin. So as such, we respectively request that the board direct staff to continue engagement with other air districts and organizations such as SCAP to work with EPA and CARB for establishment of an approved equivalency program so that fees collected are more equitable with the sources of the emissions, such as mobile sources. That concludes my comments today. Thank you for taking my comment.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
Thank you very much. Are there any additional comments from members? Madam Clerk?
There's no hands raised.
Okay, fantastic. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'm sorry, Member Shu. I will take the second if you make the motion.
Thank you, Member Medina. I'll go ahead and then move approving and adopting this Rule 45.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck Garcia.
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush.
Bush, yes.
Member Elo Rivera.
Elo Rivera, yes.
Member Gomez.
Gomez, yes.
Member Lawson Reamer. Member Lawson Reamer.
Yes.
Member Medina.
Medina, aye.
Member Shu.
Shu, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. With Member Martinez absent, that motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is item E3, 2021 Air Toxic Hotspots Program Report for San Diego County. Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony instructions for those that wish to comment?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask those members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen or by pressing *9 now. Your testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
All right, we will begin with the staff presentation. Ms. Luther, you may begin when you are ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Vargas and board members. Madam Clerk, could I have the slides, please? Thank you very much. My name is Mayani Luther. I am a deputy director for the district and I oversee the compliance and engineering divisions. I would like to also introduce Mohsen Nazemi, who is the chief of the engineering division at the district. Under state law, the district is required to prepare an annual report of activities and outcomes related to the California Air Toxic Hotspots Program, which was proposed under Assembly Bill 2588 in 1987. We are here this afternoon to present the report for 2021. Next slide, please. The California Air Toxic Hotspots Program requires air pollution control districts to evaluate potential health risks created by toxic emissions from stationary sources. Stationary sources include factories, power plants, shipyards, landfills, and other operations that can create air pollution. Stationary sources do not include trains, trucks, vehicles, ships, and other mobile sources. Under the Hotspots program, the district identifies stationary sources that can create elevated health risks. Then, per District Rule 1210, sources with elevated health risks are subject to public notification to inform the public of those potential health risks and risk reduction requirements to reduce those health risks. Next slide, please. It is important to clarify that the public notifications required under the Hotspots program only provided the potential health risk from a single source of air pollution. Those notifications do not include potential health risks from other sources of air pollution that communities might be exposed to, or the potential health risks associated with other factors that can increase health risks, such as diet, genetics, and smoking. Potential health risks represent the probability of a person developing adverse health effects, such as cancer, bronchitis, asthma, and other disease. While the Hotspots program only provides localized potential impacts from a single source of air pollution, the reductions in the health risk from a single source helps reducing the overall cumulative health risks that communities might be exposed to. Additionally, the district has been actively working with the California Air Resources Board to quantify cumulative cancer risks from all sources of air pollution for certain communities. Next slide, please. As previously discussed, our main focus today is to present the actions completed by the district in 2021 under this program. The revisions to Rule 1210 adopted by this board last November was a significant accomplishment towards better protecting public health, promoting public engagement, and environmental justice. The rule revisions include decreasing the cancer risk reduction threshold from 100 in a million to 10 in a million for emissions that occur in 2018 or later, enhancing public notification requirements, requiring public meetings for all initial public notifications, and including requirements for potential risk reduction timeline extensions. Next slide, please. This slide provides updates related to implementation of public notification and risk reduction requirements in 2021. 9 facilities were subject to public notification and 7 facilities were subject to risk reduction requirements. Next slide, please. The map on your left shows the general locations for the 9 facilities subject to public notification requirements, and the map on your right shows the general locations for the 7 facilities subject to risk reduction requirements. Next slide, please. This table lists the facilities that submitted risk reduction plans in 2021. A total of 4 risk reduction plans were submitted in 2021, and they all have been approved by the district. The plans for the asphalt plant and the landfills included controls of fugitive dust from unpaved haul roads, which can create emissions of arsenic. Those emissions are created as heavy-duty trucks drive on those unpaved roads, and exposure to arsenic increases cancer risk. The plan for the shipyard included controls for the abrasive blasting operation to control emissions of nickel. Exposure to nickel can harm the lungs, stomach, kidneys, and cause skin irritation. Next slide, please. Since public engagement is a core element of the Hotspots program, we would like to mention this webpage that has an interactive map with information regarding the facilities subject to public notification and risk reduction requirements. This webpage also has the current and past public notifications for facilities under this program and all the risk reduction plans. We would like to also encourage members of the public to sign up for the district's email subscription services and follow the district on social media to stay informed about the status of all facilities under this program. Next slide, please. Today's recommendation is to authorize the Air Pollution Control Officer to distribute the 2021 Air Toxic Hotspots report for San Diego County. This concludes our presentation, and our team is available for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any members of the public? Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. We have received no request to speak on this item. However, if there are any members of the public on the teleconference line that would like to address the board on this item, please press *9 now to raise your hand, or you may use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Seeing no hands raised, there is no public testimony on this item.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and open the floor for questions and comments from any of my colleagues. If you can go ahead and help me, Madam Clerk.
Absolutely. At this time, I see no hands raised. Oh, wait, let's see. Member Medina?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to congratulate staff for this much better report than last year's report. I really liked the features where you describe each of the facilities subject to either notification or risk reduction plans, summarizing what the contaminants are and what the facilities have done to improve their emission profiles. So I just wanted to thank you for that. Obviously, the interactive tool that you can access from the website is also really good. And I just like the language and the explanation and the description. I think it's probably a shorter report, maybe in pages, I don't know, but it's got a lot more value. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Medina.
Next is Member Gomez.
Yeah, thank you. I wholeheartedly support Mr. Medina's statements. Thank you for the great effort in making it more accessible. I do have a question. I don't know if I saw it, but on the report, if are there any consequences if the plans to achieve reductions or management don't occur? What would happen?
In that case, the facility would be subject to enforcement actions. So either if a facility doesn't submit or, submit a plan or doesn't submit an adequate plan or doesn't comply with the requirements of the plan that is approved by the district, the facility would certainly be subject to enforcement actions.
Okay, and what would be some of the enforcement actions? Just curious.
So it would certainly include monetary fees, and it would be significant because of the nature of the violation.
Okay. Would the board be notified that would be the steps that would need to occur?
The board would certainly, our notice of violations are all public information as well as our settlements. So it would be all available to the public.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next is Member Shu.
Thank you. And I also want to ditto the comments from the other board members. We did have receive some comments with regards to this report from the public, from Environmental Health Coalition. And I think I want to reiterate some of the points they have made in regards to how we can make additional improvements to this report. And I think I just want to assure the APCD staff that your employment is guaranteed, because I believe in continuous improvement, so that there's always more to do. So I think having something that's more interactive and easy for the public to see and understand what these hotspots are and what the health risks are is very important. I can tell you that when I first started learning about hotspots, it took a while for me to understand what they were, what the actions and plans, mitigation plans that these private industry had to do, and even quasi-public had to do to mitigate. And I think we should always be aware of what those are. Ultimately, I hope we are going to move to a point in which we don't have hotspots. And I think we should keep that in mind. Our goal is not to have hotspots, and that as a organization, we should keep that in mind as well. It's okay for us to regulate and monitor and take enforcement, but our ultimate goal is not to have polluted air, and we shouldn't have even any minimal risk. So with that, if it's appropriate, I'd like to go ahead and I think that we have to take action to approve this report.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and make that motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Gomez, second.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck Garcia,
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush,
Bush, yes.
Member Elo Rivera,
Elo Rivera, yes.
Member Gomez,
Gomez, yes.
Member Lawson Remer,
Yes.
Member Medina,
Medina, aye.
Member Shu,
Shu, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. With Member Martinez absent, that motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you very much. Appreciate all the work, staff and everyone else. The next item is item E4, approval of the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District's equity statement. Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony instructions for those that wish to comment?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask those members of the public that would like to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided on the screen. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen or by pressing *9 now. Seeing no hands raised, there is no public testimony on this item.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before I open up, you said there are no comments from the public?
Correct.
Okay, before I turn it over and ask any of my colleagues if they have any comments, I do want to thank Domingo for getting us started with the language for this particular document that you have in front of you. And then I also want to thank the governance committee for their input on this equity statement. We did a lot of work on this, but I also particularly want to thank Member Bush, who really did a lot of work on this and who helped us in our committee discussion. It was it was a really great discussion, a great meeting because of his thoroughness and recommendations. And I think we did a lot of wordsmithing, but we did a good job, I think. So this is a very important statement that continues, I think, our district framework for the Office of the Environmental Justice and integrates equity considerations in all of our agency actions. And I think the Governance Committee was recommendations of advancing the statement that we see on this slide. I think the slide is before you, right, for approval.
Correct, it's on the screen.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Hopefully everybody has had a chance to read it. And so I want to go ahead and open it up to see if anyone has any comments. I don't know if any of the members of the Governance Committee would like to make any comments as we're moving forward. And see if any
I
of my
believe Member
colleagues have
Lawson
comments.
Remer. I believe Member
Yes,
Lawson
ma'am.
Remer has her hand raised.
Yeah, thank you so much. I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to thank everyone for your work on this. I think it's so important and so well done. So thank you for your leadership, and just thank you for making sure that this is foregrounded. Because obviously I think we're all here to advance these values, but being able to put it out in this clear and compelling way keeps us really focused on the core issues at stake. So thank you.
You're welcome. Is that a motion, ma'am?
It is a motion to approve.
Wonderful. Any other comments, or is it a second motion?
Member
Is there a
Bush
second?
has his hand raised, and then after that, Member Shu.
Member Bush will second.
Okay, fantastic. Member Shu?
Well, having known the authors of this equity statement, it's no wonder that I like what I read and really support what it says. I hope with this equity statement, and I certainly believe we'll be approving it today, that we take some steps forward in the years to come to really establish some timelines for measurable achievements in achieving equity. So I mentioned that last Friday at an event which member Elo Rivera and I spoke at in terms of equity. We need to establish specific goals and strategies on how to achieve real equity. It's not good enough to define equity or make commitments for funding and make commitments to try to work on equity. We should have strategies to actually clean the air to the point at which we have some level of equity. And whether we use the tools in Calva amount of screening or develop our own tools, I hope we can use this statement to develop strategies and goals that give us a timeline of achieving equity of some level in the next 5, 10, 15 years. I don't really like the idea of having goals of 30, 40 years from now. I want my children and my, or even me to receive some of the benefits from this work. Thank you.
Okay, member two, you totally stole my talking points for my governance committee update, but I'm gonna let it go. Just kidding. I'm gonna share some really good, I think, feedback that we got for our discussion in our governance ad hoc committee in a minute. But we are right with you on your conversation, and I was just kidding. So we're right with you on that. So we have a motion and a second. If there are no other comments, Madam Clerk, can you go ahead and call the roll?
There are two additional comments. There's
wanted to
comments
finish,
from member Bush and from member Elo Rivera.
Go ahead.
Thank you. And can everyone hear me okay? Oh, okay. Yeah, there seems to be overlap on my end, so just concerned I make sure it wasn't me. But no, really wanted to thank the chair for the Chair Vargas for the acknowledgement. Yes, I worked hard on it, but it was really a team effort. And honestly, who did the majority of the work, or at least who got this started, was our Deputy Director, Domingo. So I really have to thank him for getting this process started. The hardest part is actually to starting a letter, right, and writing and putting it all out there. And I was really impressed with his draft, him and our executive director, Forbes. Their draft it was not that much different from what was here, and I really appreciated in the first iteration that it came right out and talked about systemic racism, discrimination, and how that has been present in our policies. I've seen a lot of equity statements that are just fluff and don't mean anything and don't acknowledge that. And we can't move forward unless we acknowledge that past in the history. It might make folks uncomfortable, but we have to do it. It's the reality. It's the truth. So I'm really glad that we all worked together. It was definitely collaborative. We all, chipped in, had open dialogue, conversation, had a justification for each piece. So I just want to say it was a really good team effort. And to Member Shu's point, it's just the start. That we still have to follow this up with metrics, with follow up, making sure we have the resources. But I think this is a great foundation for us. And yeah, so I fully support this, but I just want to thank everyone. There was some really good collaboration and teamwork.
Thank you. Member Elo Rivera.
Thank you, Chair Vargas. First, thanks to the folks who worked on this. No surprise that it's got good stuff in there, given who worked on it. Thank you, Member Bush, for your hard work on it. As Member Shu mentioned, he and I had an opportunity to sit on a panel last Friday, and the conversation largely centered around equity and environmental justice. And I think what shined through during that conversation was, one of the things for me that shined through is that progress with respect to environmental justice does not happen by accident. It is spurred by action, largely by regulatory bodies such as this. And so I think this is a great statement, not just kind of put something out in the world that says we have certain beliefs, but to be willing to do so with a pretty explicit call to be held accountable to make good on the words that are in here. And so I think I really appreciate that. Sometimes statements it can be clear that statements are nothing more than just some words on paper. And I think that between the way this is written and who put it together and who's voting on it, to be honest, it's clear to me that this is much more than that. And so I appreciate the work here, and I'm looking forward to making good on the words that make up this statement.
Thank you very much. If there are no other comments, Madam Clerk, can you go ahead and call the roll, please?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Burkbeck Garcia,
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush,
Bush, yes.
Member Ilo Rivera,
Ilo Rivera, yes.
Member Gomez,
Gomez, yes.
Member Lawson Reamer,
Yes.
Member Medina,
Aye.
Member Shu,
Chu, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. With Member Martinez absent, that motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is item G, governing at, it's Air Pollution Control Officer report. I turn it over to our Air Pollution Control Officer, Paula Flores.
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I have just a few brief updates. First, I'm pleased to announce that the new attorney who will advise the district and the board has been selected and will be starting next week with the County Counsel's office. Vera Tayagi comes to us with a wealth of knowledge and experience in air quality and CEQA matters from the South Coast AQMD. And as a result, this will be the last meeting that we have Greg Lusitana sitting with the board. And I just wanted to thank Greg for his assistance and advice over the last several months, which was on top of his work for his other clients. And I would also like to thank Rod Lorang, who came out of retirement and has been advising APCD staff on legal matters for about the last year. We've been really, really fortunate to have both Greg and Rod assist us during the transition, and I'm really grateful for their efforts. Next, I would like to call to your attention and the public's attention that we have a new community events master calendar on our website, which lists all of our public meetings and includes links to the details and background materials related to those meetings. You can access the calendar by going to sdapcd.org and clicking on the community events link. And many thanks to our new, relatively new PIO, Melina Meza, for getting that set up. And then finally, I wanted to renew my invitation to our upcoming all hands meeting on June 22nd from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It will be held outdoors at Felicita Park in Escondido. The theme for this meeting is wellness, and this will be the first opportunity for our entire APCD staff to get together in person since 2019. So please contact me if you would like to join us for that event. And that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate everything. The next item on the agenda is item G, governing ad hoc committee report. I wanted just to share that the committee met on May 26, 2022, and we had a very thorough discussion. As I mentioned before, we were able to amend the bylaws, which all of you were able to, we were able to adopt today. And then we also spent a lot of time on the equity statement. And then by unanimous decision, all members present were able to make the recommendation that you all approved. In addition to that, we were able to have a discussion regarding our governing board strategy planning retreat, which I think is, what, like I mentioned, Member Shu, this conversation around how do we make sure that equity and is coming, making it come to life, right? How do we make sure we have goals and strategies, goals and accountability in terms of how we're moving forward as a board? And we're very clear about what we want our priorities to be, so that they are aligned with our air pollution control officer and the organization's plan. And so we are trying to think about what that looks like. And so the community also is looking at putting together a retreat. And we're going to be looking at having a person assist us in having actually a strategic planning process, so that we can develop not a 5-year or 10-year plan, but a plan that is very a living plan that is going to allow us to really move forward so that we are very focused on getting additional resources, not only for the district, but through legislation and other forms, so that we can be much more effective and as we're moving forward, especially as we have now had our first year of our transition, and we're strengthening our organization as APCD. I don't know if anybody has questions and or any of the other governing board, other committee members would like to add anything else to the report. All right.
There are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is item H, board member updates. The only update I have, I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows that I think I wanted to say thank you to the staff of APCD for the opportunity to come and check in with all of them. As board chair, I had an opportunity to come and I had a Zoom coffee with them, and I appreciated their being so candid and to get to know them and to connect with them. I hope to do that with them on a quarterly basis, and to continue to have a discussion, and for them to know that we are here with them to support them and to support our air pollution control officer as well. And so it was a wonderful time to be able to, they had a lot of questions, and we were able to connect. I don't know if any other board members that may have, any other members, they may have any updates. I'm happy this is a time for you to make any comments.
Member Gomez has her hand raised.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, for a good meeting today, very productive. I did have a comment. It is my understanding right now that the City of San Diego is going through its climate action plan update, and one of the parts that has potentially been included is air quality. And I think that's a great thing. And I do know that some of the advocates are still pushing for the creation of creating goals to the air quality as part of the CAP. So I thought that this would be a great opportunity for the Air Pollution Control Board to engage in that process, and perhaps request that the department submits a letter on the intention of air quality and encouraging the city to actually set goals, just because I know that we are overseers of air quality within a certain realm of focus, but I think it's a good opportunity to engage of what the city is doing in relation to air quality in the climate action plan.
Yep, I don't think we need a board. I don't think we need a board, what is it called? The motion for that. I think that could be an operational component of the of our air pollution control officer to go ahead and process that. So great recommendation. Thank you for that. Any other board comments?
There are no additional hands raised.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Then that concludes our business for the day. As a reminder, there will be no governing board meeting during the month of July. The next meeting for the Air Pollution Control District Governing Board will take place on August 11, 2022 at 2 p.m. Thank you for everything, and thank you for indulging me for the opportunity to do it without a camera. I really appreciate everyone, and thank you for anyone that joined us today for public comment. Thank you to the staff for all the hard work, and everyone else. Again, to all my colleagues, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. We are now officially adjourned at 3:15. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.